Thank you for coming today to our event. You've probably already heard the title. The title of this event is Empowering Women Through Religiosity and Family Formation. My name is Dr. Tim Rarick. I'm a professor of marriage and family studies at BYU, Idaho, and I am honored to be part of this event here. I will introduce our speakers and our panelists in just a moment. I want to first thank United Families International and the NGO Pro-Family Coalition for putting this together. This CSWF is quite unique. I have been coming to CSW for 11 to 12 years now, and I've seen how voices and perspectives that attempt to empower women and girls through marriage, family, and religiosity, they've been derided and dismissed for and those voices have gotten increasingly loud. And I've learned many lessons over the years. One of the lessons I've learned is that volume does not equal accuracy or factual. So the louder I am doesn't mean the more accurate I am. So you're going to hear some from voices today that are, I believe, very informed, wise, evidence-based, experience-based as well. Something else I want to say about this is that we need something like this with CSWF. You might call this Inception, a conference within a conference, or a commission within a commission. There is a hunger and a need for these ideas. I've met with so many countries over the years talking about family issues, marriage issues, women issues, fatherhood issues especially, and there's a hunger and need for these topics. So I hope that you will take notes, but as we go throughout this event, I also hope that if you have questions, you can write them down. Dr. Byron Korth, over there, he's raising his hand. He will take your written questions during the Q&A portion, which will be our last 10 to 15 minutes of that. And I will talk about how we're going to do that in a minute. We will also take verbal questions, so if you don't want to write one, that's fine. But I find that as you are listening, it's easier to write questions as you're listening to these panelists. Okay, so that is a backdrop. I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Justin Dyer. The title of his presentation is Religion as a Potential Tool for Empowering Women. Dr. Justin Dyer is a professor of religion at BYU, Brigham Young University, and a fellow at the Wheatley Institute. He teaches classes on religion and family life and also has expertise in statistics and teaches graduate statistics classes. He has published over 70 peer-reviewed research studies and currently focuses on religion's impact on well-being. So please welcome Dr. Dyer.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. This is my first time being here, and what a wonderful thing it is. Tim, do you want to give me like a 5-minute warning? I was going to use my phone to keep track of the time, but now my phone is going to be the presenting tool here, so thank you for that. I have been studying for about the last 10 years, how does religion impact individuals? And today I'm going to share a little bit about how does that influence women. And this is, we've had a lot of good pictures of family, so I'm going to share a picture of me and my siblings. And one of these things is not like the other. I've got 6 sisters, no brothers, and this picture does date a little bit because I have, well, the amount of hair I have there versus now. But my sisters, my wife, my 4 daughters, all engaged in, if you will, differing levels of religiosity. It's been fascinating for me to see from an up-close and personal level, how does religion influence these wonderful women in different ways. So when we think about religion, sometimes what we think about is we think about the Footloose Father, if you remember that movie, where he's a very authoritarian, Bible-thumping individual, very controlling. We might think about things that have been done in the name of religion that have not been very good, the Crusades or 9/11, right? We have these instances where we see religion and in the media sometimes portrayed as quite negative. However, what we find very clearly in the research is that religion provides a great deal of structure for individuals in their lives. It provides meaning and purpose to individuals' lives. Meaning in suffering. Suffering is difficult, but when it's suffering without meaning, it's doubly difficult. It gives us ways to handle life's difficulties. It provides compensation for losses, eternal compensations for losses. There's so many things that we as humans lose that there's nothing that any secular means could compensate for, but religion provides people hope that they will be compensated. It provides community. It provides belonging, which is why then in almost every index of well-being that we can consider, religious people tend to do better. And women in particular access religion. So this is a Pew Research report from a few years ago. It's a great one, and it finds that worldwide, women are more religious than men. They're more likely to access this. This might be changing a little bit in the Western world over just the last few years, but typically what we find is worldwide, women are there accessing religion as an important resource. And that gives us a really important contact by which we can help to influence and empower. So there was a study done in 11 countries, done by some other colleagues of mine at Brigham Young University, that asked women and men, but this is specifically for women, how does religion influence your family life? Most women, 51%, said that it had a positive effect on their family life, with 17% saying it had a negative influence on their family life. And I think it's fair to say, okay, well, what did these 17% of women have to say? So there was 397 negative comments about religion. For example, a woman in France said it distorts the relationship between men and women. It reduces women. From Colombia, a woman said the ideology of gender and submission of women was a negative. From Argentina, a woman said creates too much prejudice. And from a woman from Chile said misguided ideas that are based on an outdated way of life. So I think and I hope we can acknowledge that yes, there are some difficulties within religion and that there might be some religious experiences that are negative. And we'd want to do all that we can to recognize those and to eliminate them. So those are the 397 comments that are negative, but then you have 1,700 women who commented on why religion was positive for them. A woman from Argentina instills love and respect, which is actually just the opposite of what we heard in the last one. A woman from Mexico, it makes us more close and respectful. Again, that word respect. Peru, it allows to feel more united in difficult moments. From Argentina, it promotes union, love, and respect within and outside of family. From Colombia, the form of love. If you love God, you love yourself. My wife is thinking of me right now. There you go. I'm going to remember that forever. I hope somebody got a picture of that while it came up. If you love God, you love yourself, and if you love yourself, you can love others. From the United States, brings the family and the couple closer together. From France, helps to forgive, to love, and to move on in difficult moments. So these women are all describing these really wonderful aspects of religion. And as we go through the research on religion, hopefully you'll be able to recognize some of these themes emerging from here. So this is from David DeSteno in this wonderful book, How God Works, The Science Behind the Benefits of Religion. He says, religion's value depends on the intentions of those using it. Yes, some of the tools religion provides can be used for evil purposes, but that's not a reason to indict the entire enterprise, especially when there's ample evidence that other items in religion's toolbox can help foster people's noblest traits. And so, my summary, giving its worldwide presence, right, something that is all across the world, understanding and maximizing religious benefits may be one of the most powerful tools for women. So let's get into some of these aspects, and I'm going to focus on a few SDGs, some of the Sustainable Development Goals, and how religion can enhance these. So we have here about gender equality, and that's an odd place for some people to think to start with religion, because you'd expect, as some of the negative comments came out, well, isn't it the case that religion would keep women back from equality? What we find, this is a study called Godly Husbands and Houseworks, a worldwide study, and the researchers expected to find that, the more religious a family is, the less housework that the husbands will do, when in fact, and to their surprise, as they say in the article, men who are more actively religious appear to espouse attitudes that place a high value on home and family, also leading to greater participation in housework. So wives, you can tell your husbands, the research shows that you should do the dishes. Another study with the 11 countries, this is in Europe and the Americas, 5,900 women who are reporting this, and they report, do we share household tasks equally? And this is by the importance of religion. You can see 35% of women who say religion is not important share household tasks equally, all the way up then to nearly half of the women who report that religion is one of the most important things in life report that they share household tasks equally. Now, why is this? Again, they espouse these attitudes that place a high value on home and family. Religion typically teaches that home, family is of high value, and so they're focused more there. This is another study that finds that religiously active fathers are more likely to be engaged with their children at early ages, right? And for new mothers, you know how important that is to have them engaged at those, all throughout life, but there's a lot of tasks in those early years. And that religious participation may be especially important for new fathers who are transitioning into parenthood. That's a hard one, that transition to parenthood. And when you're part of a religious community, that's probably helping you to see other people doing it and be connected to there. All right, another one that we want to talk about in this gender equality is violence against women. This handbook of religion and health is a wonderful handbook. It is, for us statistician people, that's kind of our Bible, if you will, on how does religion impact people's well-being. It's by Tyler J. Vanderwill, who's at Harvard. These are excellent researchers. And what they find is they summarize the research on domestic violence, that men attending religious services were less likely than non-attendees to abuse their partners, between 49 and 72% less likely. Cut the likelihood of domestic abuse in half. Women who frequently attend religious services were 40% less likely to be a victim of domestic violence. So again, in contrast to what we often see and say in the popular media, when you're more religious, that makes it less likely for domestic violence to occur. Not that, of course, that it doesn't occur, and I want to make sure that we say that, not that that doesn't occur within religious homes, and that people might not use religious language. But thankfully, most religious traditions have within their scripture indicating that that is an absolutely inappropriate use of that. All right, let's talk for a minute now about mental health. In general, women have been found to be more susceptible to mental health problems than men. Higher rates of anxiety, depression. Further, the recent dramatic increase in mental health problems has disproportionately affected women. You might know that, particularly in the Western world, we're increasing substantially in mental health problems. This is data from Europe, girls aged 11 to 15. And you can see there, before 2010, girls were a bit higher than boys in terms of psychological distress. And then you hit 2010, and in many Western countries, this is when we see a dramatic change in the mental health of individuals. And boys are, yes, affected, but girls are in particular affected by what happens in this time period. The good thing is that religion can help to buffer against some of these difficulties. On average, religious people have lower rates of mental health problems. You can see here, this is self-derogation across time. This is like, I hate myself. And you can see here we have the not religious girls were always a little bit higher in self-derogation than the religious girls. But then you hit 2010, 2011, and the religious girls increase, but the girls who are not religious have an even greater spike. And part of the reason is that when you're religious, and if you believe in a God that loves you kind of no matter what, independent of whatever you do or how you perform, that gives you a sense of security within your identity that can weather the kind of storms that we have. This is the percentage of women from the U.S. General Social Survey who had ever been told they'd had depression by a professional or someone else. Those who attended weekly, 20% said that had someone tell them that they had depression, versus those that never attended, 31%. Toxic perfectionism is another one that I've studied over the last little while. Toxic perfectionism means that, it doesn't mean that you have high standards. High standards are great. It doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. What toxic perfectionism means is that when I make mistakes, I hate myself, and I feel that I have no value, and I feel that I'm not lovable. So for those who are religiously affiliated, 12% were high in toxic perfectionism. But those who were atheist and agnostic, who never were religious, 20% of them. And again, when we tie our sense of worth to something outside of our performance, outside of the worldly kinds of things, that helps buffer against these kinds of things. Physical health. From this handbook, it says that they concluded that nearly 70% of the over 100 prospective studies, that's studies where you follow people over time, the really rigorous studies, have reported that religious involvement, particularly religious attendance, predicts greater longevity. In other words, if you're religious, the likelihood is that you will live longer. And as well, religious practice may reduce the likelihood of developing cancer. Now, why is that? And interesting, particularly for certain subgroups such as African Americans and women, is protective against cancer. Now, why is that? One of the reasons has to do with another SDG, and that is substance use. U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory just earlier this year, this is from January this year, saying that we know that there is a link between alcohol use and cancer. And what they actually find is that 16.4% of total breast cancer cases are attributable to alcohol consumption. You imagine that. Alcohol consumption, if you eliminated that, 1 in 5 breast cancer cases would not be there. And we know that religious women are less likely to consume alcohol, and if they do consume alcohol, are likely to consume less. So this is just college students, 149,000 across the United States. 35% of those who said religion was very important consumed alcohol in the last 2 weeks versus those who thought it was very unimportant, 60% of those consumed alcohol. And not surprisingly, smoking, tobacco use goes the same way. Research on religion and suicide as well. Again, when people kind of have that secure base and that connection with a divine power, and you could even take that even from if you had an atheist agnostic perspective, when you have that connection, that does something for a person. So the percentage of those who seriously considered suicide, this is again the same 150,000 college students who had considered suicide in the last year. Those who thought religion was very important, 8.7% had seriously considered suicide, contrasted to 20.1% who felt it was very unimportant. We find that religion is typically protective against suicide. In sum, we got this. Religion typically provides important sources of support to women, improving their economic, family life, and their health. I didn't get to the economics, but it's there as well. Because of this worldwide presence, it can be leveraged in almost every location. Supporting positive religiousness can create significant benefits for women the world over. Thank you.
So I'm going to introduce our next 3 speakers. We have 3 graduate students from Brigham Young University. I'll introduce the 3 speakers. Tamara Chamberlain, she will be speaking first. She is a doctoral student from Brigham Young University where she studies motherhood and marital commitment. As a research contributor to American Families of Faith, she explores how religiosity shapes the lives of Christian, Muslim, and Jewish women. In addition to her research, she teaches family life courses and is a devoted wife and mother of 4 children. Our next speaker will be Christina Cooper. She's a graduate student in marriage, family, and human development, also at BYU. She researches successfully married interfaith couples as well as successfully married women of different religious backgrounds. Christina and her husband of 33 years are the parents of 5 boys and 2 daughters-in-law, and both are expecting baby girls. And then our third speaker will be Eliza Madsen. She's a PhD candidate at BYU, studying marriage, family, and human development. Her research focuses on how belief in God impacts marriage for diverse women of faith. She is passionate about healthy relationship education and hopes one day to be a university professor. So we will first hear from Tamara, and then we will go from there. So please welcome these 3 students, these graduate students.
Well, thank you for having us here. This is quite an honor. Let's dive into motherhood, shall we? Of all human relationships, Motherhood is transformative to both the life of the woman and the child. Hundreds of research studies confirm that the relationship between mother and child, beginning in utero, lays the foundation for a child's development. Yet women too are transformed by motherhood. The profound long-term dependence of children brings unique challenges, commitments, and dependency in the life of a woman. In the midst of these realities, motherhood can be a powerful influence on women's personal, social, and economic empowerment. The power of this bond and its potential to empower women is evidenced all over the world. God made women's bodies to create. Many women gain a deeper connection with their bodies through the bearing and nurturing of life. Feminist Sarah Ruddock insightfully described how maternal caregiving cultivates a distinct mode of thought that actually enhances critical thinking. As mothers, women are propelled into lifelong learning about topics that range from nutrition to literacy, becoming more confident and resourceful, which not only benefits them, but the generations that follow. In a recent study by the American Psychological Association, 87% of mothers reported an increase in emotional resilience after having children, and 74% of the women reported feeling more confident in their abilities after navigating childbirth and the rearing of children. Harvard professor Catherine Eden moved to the impoverished inner city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to explore exactly what was shaping poor women's decisions around childbearing. Living with these women for more than a year, she found that in the midst of poverty, abuse, incarceration, and infidelity, the bond that these women experienced turned into a turning point in their lives, providing a stabilizing force that encouraged them to stay away from things like crime and substance abuse. Over and over again, the children that they had awakened within them a depth of love and attachment that imbued their lives with direction and purpose. They were motivated to become financially independent in spite of significant barriers. Many pursued new careers in higher education to secure futures for their children. Motherhood offered them something that nothing else could, an opportunity to shape the next generation by passing on values, tradition, and life itself, leaving their eternal mark on the world. They found what mothers throughout the world have found in the process of bringing life into the world, often involves intense commitment and unspeakable joy. This paradox reflects a profound truth about human existence. Love and sacrifice are intertwined. Motherhood is an experience of love that is deeply sacrificial, yet fulfilling in ways that are unparalleled in their meaning, purpose, and development. Yet, these deeply profound experiences of motherhood are compromised when women do not have an environment of strength and support. This is why governments, societies, religions should all be engaged in every effort to enable every woman to rear their children in environments where devoted husbands share in the providing and the nurturing, where economic resources enable women to provide without fear, and where children can grow up in safe and healthy environments. Depriving women of the depth of connection and power they experience in maternal relationships is not the way. This is my family. I have given the last 30 years of my life to being a mother. My children have shaped me in ways that are difficult to describe in mere words. But what I do know is this, that choosing to be a mother was the best decision I have ever made. I would not be the woman that I am today without the shaping and molding that motherhood offered me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to focus on the benefits of marriage for women. as we know, sociologists have studied throughout history that families are foundational to a strong society. Stable governments and economies lead to better well-being of women, and this is where we are able to help them improve their empowerment, which leads to thriving societies, and this leads to stronger families. And the cycle continues on as we have strong families, two-parent families that are married. It has the greatest impact. There are huge economic benefits of marriage to women. It has been studied extensively in the U.S. For example, 45% of married women have, they have 45% larger household incomes than single women. And married women also are 80% less likely to live in poverty. They have shown in studies that older married adults over 55 have 10 times the assets compared to single adults. And the benefits extend across socioeconomic levels. Also, there's studies that correlate married states, highest married rates of states, and those who have the highest population of marriage in their states. You can see on the two left maps in the red and in the blue map where they have the highest marriage rates of over 55, correlate with the highest upward mobility. These states are on the right, and they also have the highest GDP, gross domestic product. Also, this benefit extends to low SES, socioeconomic children, also benefit from two-parent families in these societies that have higher percentage of two-parent families, married families. They do have higher academic achievement when they are living in these societies. Of course, there is importance of supporting single women and single mothers, educational and economic equality for women is vital. No woman should stay in an unhealthy marriage. Still, research shows that devoted spouses in healthy marriages elevate their families and entire communities, and they have the greatest economic benefits in marriages. Also, great potential has been shown in family relational education that benefit both men and women to...
I'm just going to look at your mic.
Oh, can you hear me?
Actually, let's keep talking.
Okay. Which improves all of their relationship skills and working for equal partnership in marriage. Also, this translates to better academic achievement in children as well. There are great emotional and relational benefits of marriage to women. The unmatched potential for consistent emotional support from a spouse enables them to care for their children and effectively lead fulfilling lives. It has been shown in studies that 151% of adults have higher chances of being very happy in marriage, and they have a 545% chance of being very happy in very happy marriages. So a big difference there. Children thrive in stable, healthy families. Children learn emotional and relational skills. So the benefits are intergenerational. This passes on for generations as children learn these skills of conflict resolution and communication and learning how to overcome difficult things in marriages and support each other. This is passed on through generations, and this benefits across time. There's physical benefits of healthy marriage. Husbands provide daily physical support for women. They share responsibilities in parenting, household tasks, and transportational ease, and the burden is lifted on women when they have a supportive husband. Effective communication and collaboration allows women to benefit from an actively engaged, supportive partner. And then motherhood is physically demanding, as we all know, and having a supportive husband helps in these critical life stages to have more support. It also, research has shown that women within healthy marriages have lower stress levels, better prenatal and child care, and improved postpartum outcomes. So strengthening women through healthy marriages is vital. This is the best way to empower women through marriages, and it has been shown that when Western NGOs are aware of this, they have greater impact. They will have greater impact in these countries that have strong religion and strong values of marriage and families. We work within these structures, and we have better impact to enable them to have attain educational and economic equality. We improve relationship skills within marriage to work towards equal partnership. And healthy marriage and foundation, or healthy marriage is foundational to women, children, men, and societies. And I have also benefited from this in my own family, with told in my introduction, I've been married for 33 years, and I'm coming back to my master's program. And my husband has empowered me to accomplish what I have in the master's program, and I hope that all women can benefit from this. So thank you very much.
Hello. Okay, I'm just going to hold this. It's really tall. I'm going to be talking about maternal influence on children. So how do mothers benefit, or what role do mothers play in children's lives? So like Tamara mentioned, women's bodies are biologically designed to create and sustain life. None of us would be here today if it weren't for women. Our belly buttons serve as constant reminder of this. So mothers not only create life, but they help to sustain life. Women lay the foundation for humanity. A mother's work often involves things like providing developmentally appropriate guidance while fostering environments of security, predictability, and learning for her children. Mothers play a key role in a child's emotional learning and regulation. This work can look like facilitating conversations about feelings, listening to family members, and offering encouragement and appreciation, among other things. My own mother still does this, and I'm very grateful for that. So interestingly, research has revealed some general differences in maternal versus paternal child interactions and outcomes. One example among many is that women, on average, tend to engage in more of what we call a cooing and cuddling behavior with their infants, while fathers are more likely to engage in behaviors like tickling or tossing their children. How many of you have seen a father holding his baby like a football or throwing that baby up in the air? While mothers tend more often to hold their infants close to their bodies, facing inwards towards their own hearts, fathers more frequently hold their children facing outwards towards the world. These complementary differences contribute in different but equally important ways for healthy child development. When a child is held close, think back to its mother, it forms a sense of security and belonging, which then create a foundation for exploring the world and this outward-facing engagement in more independent and risk-taking behaviors. As we can see, this attachment between mother and child, including a mother's emotional attunement and responsiveness, are vital to a child's growth and development. With maternal sensitivity, or the ability of a mother to respond to her child's needs, actually being the most significant predictor of a child's cognitive, social, and emotional development. Incredibly, the primary task in early infancy is actually the co-creation of this emotional bond between infant and caregiver. From birth, an infant seeks this connection. Both mother and child are biologically wired for attachment. In utero, an infant begins to recognize its mother's voice and heartbeat. After birth, the infant instinctively knows its mother's smell and seeks out her face in order to gaze into her eyes, seeking vital connection. Mothers are biologically primed to bond with their infants as well. When a baby is born, a mother experiences a surge of oxytocin, often called the feel-good hormone, which continues to be released each time she holds her baby or feeds her baby. This bond is reinforced each time the mother responds to her infant's needs. Amazingly, mother and child will retain cells from the other in their bodies for the rest of their lives. That means that right now, each of you is carrying cells in your body from your own biological mother, and she in turn is carrying yours. A strong bond between child and caregiver is critical for healthy brain development. As a mother or caregiver matches her infant's emotional state and upregulates that, it lays the foundation for the development of the right brain, which is critical for future emotional regulation and relational growth. As you can see, healthy attachment is vital for development. Attachment serves many functions, including providing a sense of safety, regulating emotions, soothing distress, creating joy, and offering a secure base for exploration. Healthy attachment allows children to thrive in the world. Attachment is linked to a host of positive social outcomes, including a stronger sense of self-agency, improved emotional regulation, higher self-esteem, better coping under stress, closer friendships, better romantic relationships, greater social competence, and stronger relationships with family members. As researcher and writer Andy Crouch puts it, no one truly flourishes unless they have others who know them and reflect back to them who they are. We as humans are relational beings. From the moment we are born, we need other humans, not just to provide for our physical needs, but to connect with us in deep emotional ways. Mothers are uniquely primed to form these types of relationships with their infants. and infants are biologically wired to respond. This mutual connection sets children on a trajectory of growth, discovery, and lifelong development. As one influential leader put it, motherhood is the greatest potential influence either for good or ill in human life. The mother's image is the first that stamps itself on the unwritten page of the young child's mind. It is her caress that first awakens a sense of security, her kiss the first realization of affection, her sympathy and tenderness the first assurance that there is love in the world. In other words, the self develops in the context of a relationship with another self, another heart, another brain, a mother. Thank you.
That was so good. Let's just get one more round of applause for these three women who are very powerful. Thank you. We're now going to excuse them momentarily. We're going to have a undergraduate college student panel to talk about dating and marriage. So if the six of you will come up. Okay, I'm going to let these students introduce themselves briefly, and then we will go from there.
My name's Shelby Davis. I am a marriage and family studies major, and I will graduate with my undergraduate in July from Brigham Young University, Idaho.
My name is Matt Phillips. I grew up in Southwest Florida. I'm an undergraduate student at Brigham Young University, Idaho as well, and I'm also studying marriage and family studies and will graduate this July.
My name is Katie White. I'm also a student at BYU, Idaho, also studying marriage and family studies. I hope to be a therapist, and I'm working on getting into a program right now.
My name is Haley Kamikawa. I'm from the Seattle, Washington area. I attend BYU, the one in Provo. I am studying family studies and will be attending BYU's master's program for marriage, family, and human development.
My name is Nathan Moody. I'm from Springville, Utah. I attend Brigham Young University in Provo, and I am currently studying family studies.
I'm Jenna Johnson. I'm from Idaho. I'm studying marriage and family studies at BYU, Idaho, and plan to graduate this December.
Okay, great. I'll just hold on to that, and as I ask the questions, you can just pass that around. So, first question, just so you know a little bit more background. How many of you, raise your hand if you are married on this panel? So we got 4 out of 6 that are married, and we'll hear from all 6 of you on these random questions. So the first question is, what do you think are the biggest challenges college students face, generally speaking, in forming and maintaining romantic relationships? A little background on this. I've spoken with college students around the country, and a lot of them are trying to figure out how to make this work, how to hook up versus get together and have a healthy relationship. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges from your perspective that college students around this country face in forming and maintaining healthy relationships?
I think one massive thing that I've noticed is there's a massive emphasis, I think more so in Western culture, to be focused on career, and especially for a man as well. There's a massive emphasis, and that's increasing especially for women as well. I think I heard earlier today that there's an emphasis for women to kind of abandon their regular lifestyle or the things that make them women and kind of become more like a man in the sense that we want to go into a career and not have a family or not participate in motherhood or not get married until very much later in life or not at all. And so there's this shift to focus on career and to make that the entirety of your life. But I think of a few different things in life that you really kind of need, not balance. I wouldn't say balance is what you need, but you need kind of differences in all areas of your life. When you have career, when you have a significant other, a spouse, when you have children, when you have all of these different areas, I think that's what helps to fulfill your life. And so you can focus on a career. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. Career is very important, and so many of these women on our panel today are focused on their career. They want to be a counselor. They want to be involved in research or something in some way that will bless and help the world to develop and have a huge positive effect. But I think that there's more to life than just a career. There's more to life than your professional development. While that is important, there's so much more to life. And I think that when we can recognize that and understand that the power that marriage and family has to help us to develop and grow as a human being, I think that when we take that seriously, we will experience those effects.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying one of the challenges that college students face is maybe thinking it's an or. It could be family or career, and you think it could be an and. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say also I think that there's something that scares people, especially college students our age, of maybe they see their parents or other people in their life that have had bad experiences in family life, or maybe a different family member or a friend, and it scares them, right, to get married. It scares them because they don't want to experience that hardship and those effects that come from marriage and family life, or having kids, or being a good father or being a good mother. But I think that a huge effect that family life has, whether positively or negatively, is helpful to experience and just try your best. That not everyone is perfect, and I think that's part of the blessing of family life, is being able to go out and do your best to be a husband, to be a father, a mother, and really develop yourself in that way. Not everyone's perfect, but that's part of what makes it so gratifying and wholesome for everybody involved.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on these challenges, Katie?
I think one thing also that makes it hard is the lack of good examples. In my own life, as I mentioned, I want to be a therapist, but I was raised by a mother who was a stay-at-home mom. I'm the oldest of 6, and that was her priority. That was what she was focusing on. And now her baby is, my baby sister is now 7, she's working on going back to school and pursuing that. But the lack of examples, I think, of women that do both at the same time or in different orders, I think is really hard. For me, I always wanted to be a mother. That was my example growing up. And until recently, in the past few years, I didn't really think it was in the cards for me to be able to have a career and to be a mother. And something that I feel like I've seen as I've worked with more women in this major, with professors at my university, and through connecting with other professional women, is that it is possible. I think with that lack of good examples, like we see that in media all the time, that it's either women who stay at home or it's women who choose a career, that it's really few and far between that you see examples of women successfully doing both.
Thank you. I think, Jenna, do you have a thought you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was just going to share something that has profoundly impacted my life, is something that I've studied as I've been pursuing marriage and family studies. Dr. Van Epp published a whole bunch of research, and he's a very prominent figure in what is known as the relationship attachment model, or RAM for short. And it was something that I personally couldn't figure out dating. It was not working. I could not find the right guys. I could not find people who shared similar values. My approach was off. And when I learned about this model, and I learned a step-by-step process of very safely exploring my options and learning without improper commitment how to find those people, I attracted my husband right to me. It was crazy, and I don't want to say that that will happen for anyone. I can't guarantee, but in my case, it certainly did. And once I prioritized healthy dating habits within myself because I knew how to implement those habits, I did find the person who supported me. And because I am now married, the things that I have been able to accomplish in my schooling and my career, I have accomplished more schooling in the past almost year that I have been married. I'm 23 for reference. Than I did the past 3.5 years that I have been studying. And so my husband has been a great blessing and a support to me in my career. And without him, I probably wouldn't be here, because it was a lot harder to be on my own and pursuing this career. So I'm super grateful that I had that relationship attachment model to teach me what healthy dating looks like, because now that I'm in a healthy relationship, it has actually impacted my both personal and professional life profoundly.
Thank you. You kind of alluded to this earlier, but research indicates that cohabitation, living together without marriage, has been on the rise for many, many years. Do you think that this has a positive or a negative impact on healthy relationship formation and the potential for marriage? What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, sorry, I need to eat the microphone more. What are your thoughts on the impact of cohabitation on relationship development and permanency?
Cohabitation is an interesting thing to look into research-wise. The majority of couples who cohabit don't make it very far into a long-term relationship, and the research has shown that it doesn't create healthy habits, it doesn't create lasting emotional ties, because trying out, I guess that's kind of a way to say it, we're test driving this relationship. When you're starting with 1 foot out and 1 foot in, it's easier to leave. And as I've seen in my marriage, my husband and I got married. We didn't live together. We weren't sexually active before we were married. But because when we went all in together, the commitment is there and much longer lasting. And even though there are hard moments, marriage is not, you don't get married and it's not easy, but it's worth it when you're all in, and it makes it easier to stay when it's hard.
So a follow-up question, not just for you, but for the rest of you. So there's a lot of couples that do this, and some of them may turn out to be successful, to cohabit first, and there's a wide variety of reasons why they do it. Do you think it's because it's out of fear that they, or out of more of convenience? Is it because this is more convenient to have a relationship? There's a fear because we better test drive this relationship for a really long time in every possible way. Haley.
I think the literature, as much as it does indicate that those who are married do have more satisfaction within their relationship and also do result in more stable, long-lasting relationships. However, there is a big distinction of how these couples are going about these relationships, and it's kind of colloquially referred to within the school, like with family life, as sliding versus deciding. Couples who make a very conscious effort to say, we are committed to each other, we're going to live together, and we have a plan to get married, those couples actually do have quite a bit more likelihood for having enduring, satisfying relationships versus the couple that, hey, we're sleeping over at each other's place now, this is just getting more often, I don't want to pay rent, my lease is coming up, like these kind of factors make it more of a convenience, whereas it's less of a thought process. There's always a potential that, oh, maybe I'll find a new place, or, oh, this is just temporary. Whereas couples who actually make the conscious effort of, we are cohabitating or married or planning to get married, versus it's just like those ones are the ones that tend to have the more satisfaction.
Yeah, thank you. The sliding versus deciding is, if you want to look that up, I think it was Scott, how do you say his name? Scott Stanley. You can look that up, what Haley was talking about. It's fascinating research. Matt, did you have a comment?
Sorry, one thing I loved what you said, and I was just looking at research recently that shows essentially that couples who have joint bank accounts tend to have higher marital satisfaction and a longer marriage than those who have separate bank accounts. And so I'm not saying you have to have a separate bank account or a joint bank account, but what I'm saying is typically when it comes to finances, which is a leading cause for divorce, when there's a joint bank account, there's a lot more trust and commitment when it comes to the finances. And so I think that has such an interesting relationship on marriage. So then when you really apply that to a day-to-day situation, right? So a couple that might be cohabiting and they have separate bank accounts, or maybe it is a couple who is married. When you have something real that happens in life, like someone gets injured, there's a car accident, something really serious happens that costs a lot of money, or something significant happens in life, there's trust there and there's commitment to work through those things. But when there is a situation of a cohabiting couple, for example, and something difficult happens in that relationship, when there isn't high levels of commitment and trust, it's so much easier to look at that relationship and say, ooh, this is going to cost a lot. Whether it's financial, whether it's personal, spiritual, emotional. And so people will much easier back out of those, which lowers marital satisfaction and increases the likelihood for couples to split.
Thank you. Actually, that leads me to another question I want to ask. So a lot of couples, when they're getting together, some of the reasons is financial, think there's going to be a financial advantage. A lot of them are looking for sexual compatibility. What qualities and attributes did you look for those of you who are married, for a long-term partner, for your spouse? And those of you who are single, what qualities or attributes are you looking for? If it's not just financial stability or perceived financial stability. Anybody want to tackle that?
So with my experience for looking for a spouse, I didn't know what I needed until I found it. And I think, I don't know, maybe a lot of people can agree to that. But if we're not actively seeking and looking, we won't know what we need. So just like starting with that. When I met my husband, we're about as yin and yang as you can get. He's very introverted, very philosophy, and I'm very blonde and excited about life. And when I found him, I found that there are some things that I can contribute to a relationship, but there are things that I need as well. And so when I found someone who not met those deep needs, but was able to grow my weaknesses, was able to build me up from where I was, that is what has really attracted to me, my husband, because he can help me where I am. And I think, I don't know, that's just a huge thing that, again, I didn't know what I needed until I found it. But when we can find people to build us from where we are, I think that's huge. I don't know.
Thank you. That's interesting perspective, because I know a lot of young adults think I need to find someone just like me, so they test me less, and so life is easier. And you're saying complementary attributes can be helpful, where you can, I guess, opposites attract and lift each other. So I guess perspective does matter quite a bit.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what you said, Shelby. I think a huge thing for me was, in lack for better terms, really just finding a woman that could be my best friend. Someone that could really see who I was, and despite, my weaknesses and flaws that I had, that she could see my potential and help constantly remind me of that potential. Because I feel like we men are at our prime when we understand, when we have a vision of who we are, who we can become. And so looking at, my wife is just someone that she is just very curious about people, and instead of being very judgmental and quick to she dives deeper down into the roots. And so I've always loved having that kind of curiosity for my wife, and that's really helped me, pushing me to become a better person. And even in the things that, we disagree on, I'm grateful for those disagreements, because it's almost in those disagreements that we become better people, and we push ourselves to create something incredible. And so just like you said, it's kind of this yin-yang kind of thing, but it's in those opposites that I think that we sometimes even thrive. Yeah.
So it sounds like disagreements and conflict can destroy you or build you, depending on how you handle it.
Yeah,
Right?
and I think on top of that too, like there's definitely I think there's a big difference between contention and conflict, and I think conflict when I think the big difference between contention and conflict is the respect. When there's the respect there, conflict is this thing that can help us grow. But as contention sometimes can take away that respect, I think it tears us apart.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other thoughts of what you looked for or what you are looking for? Go ahead.
Yeah, just really quick. I actually did know exactly what I was looking for. I am the type of girl who has a plan. I have known what I have wanted to do, and just I'm very ambitious. I have big goals, and I was looking for someone who would be willing to support me in those goals, because I believe that two is better than one. And that conclusion I haven't always believed, because I have been very independent, and I wasn't sure for a while if marrying someone and being in a committed long-term relationship would be the best fit for me. But ultimately, I knew that if I wanted to magnify the impact I can have on the world as a compassionate woman with specific blessings and abilities to give to the world, I knew that if I partnered with someone who was totally supportive of me, that he would be able to magnify that impact. And I've seen that already, and I'm so excited to see what else he and I can work on and build together.
Thank you. You actually segued perfectly to the last question, because all of you are statistical anomalies, especially in the United States. You're in your 20s, you're college students, and you're either married or want to be married, and that's rare. Research shows that young people are getting married later and later and less. So if you were talking to a college student who thought that marriage and family were the end of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what would you say to them? Start with Haley.
This one I actually think is so interesting because
Hold it nice and close.
I really think this one is interesting because truly there are so many nuances to the idea of marriage and family, and that's the first something as researchers, as family members, as friends that we need to recognize that yes, historically marriage can be looked at from a very negative perspective. However, I believe, this is my opinion, and this is I feel it is backed up by a lot of research, that within as we've become more educated and as we've become more open, especially with the first couple waves of feminism, that marriage is being transformed and has much more potential to be liberating and empowering for women than it ever has. As you have all, I think most of you have seen in the previous presentations, that marriage actually does offer women a lot more stability and support. And even within my own marriage, I have seen, as my husband has been incredibly supportive of everything that I want to do, everything I want to accomplish, and more. And so I think it's so funny when people are so shocked that I got married at 21 and they think I'm settling down, when really I'm creating a foundation. A lot of people my age view marriage as this capstone, as when I hit my educational needs, when I hit my life goals, when I hit this X amount of money, I will be married, and that will be the icing on the cake. When in reality, marriage should serve as a foundation, because that is where it's most powerful, as we've seen in literature, as we've seen in the lives of many women, and maybe many women here. And so, although I do recognize, and I do think it is important to realize that, yeah, there are some people that have been really hurt by marriage. However, and those experiences are important and they're valid, but they also don't quantify the wholeness of marriage and the potential that marriage has to be that platform for women like myself and anyone else to go forward and build a life, to create opportunities, and to really have experiences to share. And I think it's really something that I would offer people to counter a little bit and be like, to acknowledge and then counter kindly. So.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you. Other thoughts on this? We'll go Katie, then Nathan.
Sorry, I think I stole your turn. I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful for parents who gave me an example of marriage being successful and working out. I think a lot of people are not that fortunate, and I think that's probably why a lot of people think that marriage is this establishment that brings a lot of misery and, what was it, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that you were talking about. With that, I myself am very religious, and I believe that marriage is ordained of God, that it is a God-made organization, and that when you take God out of it, that it loses a lot of its value. That a lot of these marriages that are ending in divorce, that are ending unsuccessfully, are ending because they take the things that God put into it out. That they're focusing on being selfish, that they're focusing on what I can get out of it. And I'm not saying that you need to be religious to have a successful marriage, but the things that God taught us in the Bible about what marriage is that it is a selfless act, that it's something that we are doing to better each other, to better society, to bring children into the world, and that's something that I look forward to every single day. I'm currently a single 24-year-old woman attending BYU Idaho, and I don't think of marriage as anything but exciting and wonderful. And I think that the only reason that I'm able to think that way is because I'm willing to put in the work and have the standards to create a relationship that is going to be statistically successful. That we look at the statistics of commitment, of all these different things, that is where the joy comes, and it's not from being selfish, that it can work, and it does.
Thank you. Thank you. Nathan?
I just wanted to kind of add to what's been said, just about I found that in my life as I've been able to see marriage as a foundation, and also, being married very young at 21, kind of going forward, I'm like, yeah, I don't have my whole future planned out. It's, a little bit uncertain at times, but I'm going into this with my wife, and we're like, we're going to build up something together. And that was really exciting for us because oftentimes amongst our peers, as Haley mentioned, marriage is often looked at as a capstone. You need to work on yourself and perfect yourself before you can be in a relationship. And I think that's an easy tendency to fall into. And you know what, for some people, maybe that getting married later in life is perfect for them. And I'm not saying that there's a certain age that people should be getting married, but I think there's a lot of power that comes when you and someone else can build up a foundation together. And I've seen in my own marriage just thus far, I think I've probably grown in the past 7 months of being married more than I ever have in my life, just because of the way that being in a relationship pushes me to develop parts of myself and look into parts of myself that are hard to confront at times. And it's really helped me develop to the kind of man that I want to be. And so I'm really grateful for this institution. Marriage is this incredible institution that, this is helping us, family, to help us create a family. And I think that there's power in kind of going back to your question, what you said about, this ending the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Like, I think truly that this is the gateway for that, because I think as we focus, marriages and family, like it's to bring children into this world. And I think as we can focus on that, bringing children, like I think we'll become better citizens, we'll be more involved in our communities, within our schools, and create a safer place for our children to one day grow up in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to give the final word to this, Shelby, and then we're going to open the Q&A. We have till 35 after. Is that right, Lexi and Kristen? 35 after? Okay. Go ahead.
Just on that, I think you guys have said it so perfectly, and to just bottle it into one word, I think when we think of marriage as ending a life of pursuit of happiness and all the other things, it's a very narrow mindset. It's also a very self-centered mindset. And I'm not saying marriage is this, it's so selfless, but I'm saying if we want to build economies, if we want to build governments, if we want to build our communities, we need to build the family. And so if I think of my relationship as I can do it later, I'm not building the community that has built me. And so if we can build the families, we will be able to take back just what is given to us from our communities.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for our panelists. Would you like to have your chairs, you three ladies come up here and just move some chairs? We have enough time for one or two, maybe three questions. Dr. Korth is there. He can field your written questions, and I'm also going to give him a microphone. So if you want to ask a question, he'll have the mic. So,
I'll let you call him out.
Oh, you want me to call him out?
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your hands if you want to ask a verbal question. This lady here in the front. I'm not playing favorites because she's closer.
Okay, thank you very much. Although I came in at the tail end of the conversation, but I think I got the gist of it. I do have a question. I think everything that you've said, I agree with everything that you've said, but I would like to get an answer, or at least a response, on what happens when you're not in an ideal situation, so that you have people in marriages, committed relationships, but you're in a violent relationship, you're in a dangerous situation. What happens in a situation like that? Because we work with women. I come from Kenya, but where they are encouraged, even when they are in violent relationships, to stay in the marriage because marriage is for life. And you find that some of them end up being killed in those situations. So while we may discuss the ideal, what happens in a situation like that, and how do we then guide them in a way that doesn't violate Christian principles, Do we let them stay in dangerous situations? Thank you.
Excellent question. Thank you. Whoever would like to respond to that. Sounds like, how do we promote the ideal while recognizing reality for many women, right? If I can summarize that. Okay, let's start here and then we'll come here.
Well, I completely agree that there are dangerous situations for women and across the world. We need to have safety nets for them and ways for them to be able to safely leave a dangerous situation and provide for them, and we still need to reach for that ideal. Because as we reach for that, as we try to show what can be accomplished still, and educate both men and women on how to accomplish that. Not just women. Men need to be educated as well, and how to treat women in relationships and marriage, that we can become better able to. And it happens incrementally because we are coming into different situations, strong religions, strong values, different ideas that need to be changed incrementally over time, working towards especially the safety of women, watching for the safety of women.
next? Whoever wants to grab it.
I just wanted to thank you for your question. With all of us on the panel, I think that we were definitely talking about marriage as something to prepare for and something that either these are new young marriages, all the ones on the panel, or as Matt and I are looking to get married. We're still looking on building that foundation of the ideal marriage, as you were talking about. My grandma, she is the most wonderful, perfect woman I think I've ever known. She got married when she was 21 to a man who was cheating on her and treating her inappropriately, and she divorced him. And she then, a few months, I believe about a year later, ended up meeting my grandpa and getting married. And they have a beautiful, beautiful relationship that I'm so grateful for today. So with that, I just wanted to say that I'm so proud of her for leaving him, that first husband, that I still think that she is the most wonderful person on the planet, and that her leaving that marriage and ending it with a divorce doesn't make her any less of a woman or anything less in the eyes of God. And I believe that God's number one priority, as you're talking about Christian principles, is that we are safe and that we are loved. And yes, divorce is never something that we want to happen, but sometimes it is the best option. And I believe that that should never be demonized, that a woman should never be told that, or a man, that they're bad for leaving a relationship when it is unsafe or unhealthy. That yes, we want to do all we can to preserve that marriage if it is possible, but at the end of the day, there are many situations where it just simply is not safe and it's not okay. And so I agree that the Christian principle that needs to be focused on maybe isn't that divorce is bad, avoid divorce, but that God loves you and that God wants you to be safe and happy.
I think something in general, as we do discuss family life and all the nuances and differences that do come into family life, is that yes, there is an ideal, and an ideal is a happy, healthy marriage that is founded on solid principles. However, and that's what we want to encourage. However, there's this also key word of support. While yes, I encourage people to get married and to have these relationships. However, I support women who are in abusive relationships and to get out. I support women who are divorced. I support single mothers. And so it's really interesting that as we kind of look at certain policies, at certain national foundations, that although we are trying to encourage things, we also need to support all of our other brothers and sisters that may not have the opportunity to be in what we are encouraging, just to make sure we're not leaving anybody out. So I think with what you're saying, it's, although yes, we would love for every woman to have a loving husband who supports her. However, we need to, and we want to encourage that, but we need to support the women that are faced in really difficult situations. And so I think that's something that we as voters and potential policymakers really need to be mindful of. So.
I wish we had time for more questions. There is a hallway. We're going to have we have 4 speakers and 6 panelists. They can field questions out there. To your question, if I could just say one more thing. I'll be speaking on a panel tomorrow on fatherhood. And I've done a lot of research on fatherlessness. And maybe you could come, but we need to change the fatherhood and man culture to be able to improve that too. We can't go around men to avoid this problem. We have to empower them to be what they can be. You can't turn a bully into a flower child, but you can turn him into a knight, and that's what we need to do. Does that make sense? So let's have one more round of applause for our 4 presenters and 6 panelists.